Hello, church. So we're going to do some reading in 1 Samuel chapter 13. And so when we read this, we want to understand that we are talking about King Saul in this context of the Bible. And King Saul was the very first king of Israel. Now, when he became the king in the very beginning, he was very humble and he was, not feeling worthy. But as time went along, he began to feel a little more entitled and arrogant about who he was. And it caused him to begin to act in ways that he should have never acted. And we're going to read one of those accounts, and we'll look at the consequences of this right here in 1 Samuel 13. Saul waited there 7 days for Samuel, as Samuel had instructed him earlier. But Samuel still didn't come. Saul realized that his troops were rapidly slipping away. So he demanded, "Bring me the burnt offering and the peace offerings," and Saul sacrificed the burnt offerings himself. Just as Saul was finishing with the burnt offerings, Samuel arrived. Saul went out to meet him and welcome him. But Samuel said, "What is this you have done?" Saul replied, "I saw my men scattering from me, and you didn't arrive when you said you would, and the Philistines are at Michmash, ready to battle." So I said, "The Philistines are ready to march against us at Gilgal, and I haven't asked the Lord's help." So I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering myself before you came. Well, there's a major problem here. See, the problem is that King Saul had no business offering the offerings that God had ordained for the priest to offer, which was Samuel. So Saul, seeing in his human his impatience and trying to fulfill a need and guaranteeing a win by trying to appease God, disobeyed God and his desire to ask God's help, directly disobeying the fact that he had no business offering those offerings just because he became impatient and he began to see things that made him uncomfortable going on around him. See, the thing is that God is the only one that can give the victory, and God was the only one that could give them the victory. But Saul saw his army beginning to get uncomfortable and some of them leaving, and therefore he became impatient with God's man and the opportunity to do the things that God had said, and so he took matters into his own hands. Anytime we take matters in our own hands because of our impatience or because of a reaction to the people around us, we're in trouble. This moment in Saul's life was catastrophic. It is here that he was rejected as the king of Israel by God, and God spoke through the prophet, priest Samuel, and told him, "You could have had the kingdom established in your name, but now it will go to another." And this is how King Saul and his family lost the kingship over Israel, and God granted it to David. Now, when we look at this, the lesson for you and I today is that, no matter how impatient we become, no matter what people around us say and do, we should never act in disobedience to what we know God has said. There is no excuse. There is no reason, and we must comply to what God tells us. So, let's be His waiting, patient, compliant, obedient church. God bless you today.